This is a live look here at the stage in Keene, New Hampshire, where Senator Elizabeth Warren is rallying voters right now. And while all eyes are on New Hampshire, major headlines across this country raising questions about the future of the Iowa Democratic Caucus. Here are just a few of the headlines. Quote, the death of Iowa, a system-wide disaster, a total mess, an epic breakdown. I'm joined now by Des Moines Register Chief Political Reporter Brianne Faunensteel. Brianne. Back with me, Michael Steele and Zerlina Maxwell. Brianne, let me start with you there. As we reported, precinct captains, caucus organizers were aware of problems with this new app as early as Monday morning. What are you hearing about that part of the story?
Well, we're hearing that there were concerns early in the day and even in the days before as this was being rolled out, as Iowa Democrats were getting used to this system. We've heard from county chairs across the state who were unable to access it. And then the problem, the Iowa Democrats have used a telephone system to report results back in the past. And so there was that backup system, but then they called into the phone hotline and that failed as well. And so there was really a lack of backup here. That was the big problem. If the app fails, there should have been another way for these precinct captains to get the results in, and we saw that fail as well.
Zerlina, you've been fairly vocal on this program about Iowa's status as first in the nation in terms of a nominating contest. Do you think this is the nail in the coffin for Iowa?
I hope so, because I think that...
But to be fair, you hoped so before this.
Yes, I did hope so before this.
She's consistent.
Yes, so I have the consistency on that piece. But I think there are certain clarifying points you can look at. One, the makeup of the electorate doesn't reflect the makeup of the Democratic electorate, which the base of the Democratic Party is black people. 25% of the Democratic primary electorate is black people. 60% of the Democratic primary electorate in South Carolina is black people. There are 91% of Iowa is white people. And so you're just going to have a complete disconnect in terms of any predictions you could make out of Iowa in terms of who is the person the Democratic primary electorate wants, not just the white Democrats who live in Iowa. So I think that it's an example of systemic racism, to quote my Signal Boost co-host Jess McIntosh from this morning. And the reason why is fundamentally because it's an undemocratic process. You need to be somebody who can take the time off to go and caucus on a Monday night for several hours. If you have kids, who's going to babysit? Can the babysitter go caucus if they are over 18?
Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Structurally, it's very undemocratic in a country where people of color are historically marginalized.
What about those who would say, well, it's transparent. The cameras are there. Everyone can see who's voting for whom. We get a front row seat to the mess.
No. What you want is more people participating in the process. That's the foundation of democracy. And so what you want is to make it easier for people to participate so you get an accurate, just like the census. You want as many people as possible to respond so you can get an accurate tally of just what the American people think. If we are just asking white people what they think about the Democratic candidates, then you're not getting an accurate reflection of what the primary electorate thinks, which again, includes people of color like myself.
Michael Steele, we're talking about Democrats, obviously, because it's their primary this time, but Republicans, Iowa's first on the calendar. Explain to people, because you've been in this game a long time, how is it that Iowa has such an outsized influence on our electoral system?
It started with the 72 campaign, where McGovern decided, hey, there's this little thing going on in Iowa. Let's go see if we can work with this system and take advantage of it to their benefit. And it clicked, and here we are 50 years later, having to deal with this process, if you will. The reality of it is, it's an outlier. It is not a reflection of where the race will go, and it's reflected between the two parties, because Republicans, who've won the nomination, have not necessarily won Iowa first. It's a little bit more consistent on the Democratic side, but that again, when you go into a broader electorate, you want the country to be reflected. You want to get some sense, and more candidates now are tending to run a more national primary campaign. Look at the number of candidates who spent time in places other than Iowa. The other side is you're spending an outsized proportion of your time in Iowa. I mean, for heaven's sakes, you're not going to spend a year in the other 49 states. So there's a disproportionate weight placed on Iowa. I tried to change it when I was national chairman for our 2012 cycle and got summarily shot down. But I still stand by. I don't think it should be the first in the nation. I think we should go to either a regional-based primary system, a national primary day, or a lottery system.
Brianne, 10 seconds here really quickly. Do you get the sense there in Iowa that Iowans know that this may be it?
There was a question about whether this was going to be the last Iowa caucus before all of this happened. That had been the talk of a lot of Democratic activists and strategists. Is this our last shot at this? And what happened last night makes it just immensely more difficult to maintain this process.
Brianne Farland-Steele. Brianne, thank you. Michael Steele, Zerlina Maxwell, always good to have your insight. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.